If you're watching this, there's a very high chance that you probably grew up with the Sailor Moon English dub. If you haven't found out by now, or even by seeing what I said in the last videos, the dub butchered the storyline. Hell, I'm sure there's a few of you who didn't even know about the last season's Stars. That's because Stars was never dubbed in English because of contradictory reasons. Some say it's because the license expired at the time. Others think because the content would be too controversial for Americans to handle, and others say that Takeuchi wasn't impressed with what they did to it in English. Below in the video, I will write up a list of the name changes made for the dub to make it more accessible to viewers who aren't familiar with what I'm talking about. There were two companies that dubbed the English Sailor Moon, DiC and Cloverway. DiC dubbed the first 2 seasons and Cloverway handled the last 2 seasons. As to why DiC did not get the rights to dub the next 2 seasons, nobody knows. They say that DiC did something to breach their contract to hold the rights to Sailor Moon. Note that Cloverway was Toei's American representatives. Let me start off by saying that Cloverway is more true to the story for the most part. Sorta gets the edge over DiC. But Cloverway also was infamous for doing some stupid things to the dub. And yes, it is infamous for butchering the original, and there's so many things I could talk about, but let me tell you the top 10 worst things about the Sailor Moon dub. This is gonna be a long one. Number 10. The Japanese characters being kept out or just left in. This is probably the least bad thing on the list, seeing as, yeah, it's aimed towards an English-speaking audience, but there were occasions where the DiC dub cut out entire buildings with Japanese characters and put over something else. I think the funniest one is when they replaced the front of Usagi's school with Crossroads Junior High. Yeah, there totally is a school in Japan like that. For reals. A minor thing, but it would get a bit annoying and made the dub seem more generic. Number 9. The name changes. I know people who don't mind the name changes, and while I'm okay with them changing the names of their civilian forms, it's mostly some of the villains and the name of their group. In this case, the Dark Kingdom was changed to the Negaverse, and in the second season, the Black Moon Clan is referred to the Negamoon. The Negamoon. What the fuck, DiC? There's also the fact in season 4 they called the Lemurs Remless because I guess they wanted it to sound phonetically correct or something. And the name change of Kunzite to Malachite. Why? 8. Those goddamn transitions. This was only used in the DiC dub, but they would add these digital transitions and 90s-esque border for transitions. I don't know why. I guess they were trying to be hip with the kids back then. They also added some pizzazz to some random things, like making Queen Barrel's ball have thunder in it when there originally wasn't any to begin with, and other things like that. Why? I can't really say much about it other than thank God Cloverway didn't do the same thing for their dub. Number 7. The music. Now, I can sort of forgive the opening theme and such. It is a staple of the show, especially if you grew up watching the dub. In fact, it holds a special place in my heart, even though I like the original Japanese lyrics. However, the background music in the DiC dub, good God, how generic can you get? So much for so much synthesizer and so goddamn generic, and when they're sad or powerful or fuck yeah moments, this is the best you could come up with? In the original, man, I love hearing that quirky clarinet. I love hearing a choir of people sing. Strings! Oh, yeah! Yeah, to put it simply, the music in the original was the best, and I'm so glad Cloverway decided to use it when it was their turn to dub. Number 6, the censoring of nudity. A brief one, there was a bit of censoring of nudity in the dub, although some of it didn't really involve nudity. Although the most notorious one is the added water to not show any of Usagi's cleavage in the dub. There was also the removal of body lines when they transform because we don't want the kids to know they have boobs. Or hey, is a monster of the day dressed slutty? Yeah, as much as I've been giving Cloverway a free pass, there were 2 episodes that weren't aired until it was on syndication reruns. One of them being the most important episode of the Super Season. This was the episode where they find out Hotaru's Sailor Saturn. Apparently, Cartoon Network found the monster of the day too naked and asked Cloverway to get some digital painting done on it so it would appear in a bikini instead of their birthday suit. The second episode that wasn't aired until syndication was in Super S, where the monster of the day had a nipple shirt and would shake their butt as a way to tease a senshi. Yes, boobs are bad, okay guys? It's a good thing they didn't get their hands on the last episode of the entire series. Imagine how that could have been like. Number 5, Sailor Moon Says. Oh, Sailor Moon Says. It was a deconvention, and it was only done in the first 2 seasons. I don't even know if they still do these PSA things in kids shows anymore, but in the 90s it was the big thing to add some sort of moral at the end of each episode. What's hilarious is that sometimes the morals didn't make any sense. I mean, just listen to them!
Yeah, Niflight's a hot-looking guy, but he is bad to the bone, ooh. I know I'm not the best student in the world, like Greg and Amy, but it's important to take school seriously. Queen Beryl did a terrible thing when she destroyed the moon. But if we're not careful, we could destroy our planet too, through pollution and plain old carelessness.
We can be careful not to waste things, like paper and plastics. And we can recycle the paper, plastics, and bottles we do use.
We can try walking or biking to school and save on our parents' gasoline.
And look, they also come complete with a 90s themed border. Also, funny to note, in some of these Sailor Moon Says morals, whatever, they would add in deleted footage that they cut out. Like footage that was in the original anime, but they cut it out for the American release. More on that later. Number 4. The dialogue and voice acting.
Make a deal. You hand over that crystal and I will douse your friends.
No deals with double-crossing, bad bleach job nega trash like you. Get ready, the Negaverse is dust. Are you for real? The moon? It's not some Wongo dream.
Ew! Get off of me! Ugh, as if.
Good God. Rewatching some of these episodes shows how much they relied on what the writers thought the kids were saying these days. So much 90s slang, and even the Cloverway dub did an awful job too. Plus, it doesn't help that a good portion of the voice actors can act to save their lives. That and some of the voices did not fit the character. Personally, the worst English dubbers were second Sailor Moon. No, Sailor Moon had 3 voice actresses. Darien Tuxedo Mask, especially first season. I think they changed him later on.
Correction. Prince Darien, champion of the Negaverse.
Amy Sailor Mercury with both.
Go bleach your roots, Craig.
Yes, I think so too.
Sailor Pluto later on.
Pluto Deadly Scream!
The first voice actors of Chibi-Usa
Just forget it, lady. I don't have time to waste.
and Zirconia.
At last, the time has come for us to conquer and rule this world. Amazon Trio!
But honestly, the worst is Sailor Moon's second voice actress. Yeah, there's some people who say the third voice actress was bad, and while I don't entirely disagree, there were moments where she improved, and when she turned into Princess Serenity in some episodes, her voice was actually really cool. What's even worse is since they made so many script changes, a lot of things were lost in translation. It made things more confusing for some viewers and made even less sense now. When someone says they don't understand Sailor Moon because it makes no sense, it's probably because they watched the dub growing up. And honestly, yeah, the dub made things more confusing with plot threads and took the meaning out of things. Number 3, gender changes. There were 3 characters whose gender was changed when dubbed. They are Zoisite, Fisheye, and Zirconia. Zoisite was changed into a female, and so was Fisheye. We'll get into why in the next problem. But Zirconia makes no sense, as she's supposed to be the older version of Nehelenia, who's a female. This ruins the whole Super S season, as this isn't really supposed to be controversial. But the other 2. Number 2. What gays? And here we come to one of the big ones. In case you couldn't tell, there are gays in Sailor Moon. In fact, I'm pretty certain the Sailor Moon has a big following in the LGBT community, and for good reason. For starters, in the classic season, Zoisite is male, and his lover was Kunzite. In dub, Zoisite is a female, and her lover's Kunzite. This was they could probably censor less and just switch genders. You know, because we don't want the children asking about gay peoples. Fisheye is a man, and a bit of a flamboyant one. Gay in the anime, as most of his victims are generally male. Although in the manga, they never really specify his sexual orientation. What's funny about the change with Fisheye is that while they changed him into a female, there was an episode where he goes to this fashion designer to try on clothes. Mostly naked, except for his briefs, underwear. In the dub, they don't even bother to censor this, even though you clearly see he has no boobs. The big one people seem to remember is the Haruka and Michiru relationship. In case you couldn't tell, they're lesbians. In the dub, we get the infamous cousin debacle.
They're girls and cousins too. Amara, Michelle!
Fantastic! You're the best cousins in the world!
How'd you guys meet then?
We're cousins. We grew up together.
Huh?
We've been inseparable since we were born. We can almost read each other's minds.
Like best friends?
What's funny is that they kept telling us they were cousins, they kept a lot of the hand-touching in, and there really wasn't anything explicit that they had to censor. When I was 9, I just thought, man, for cousins, they sure are very close. Leave the incest to Game of Thrones next time. And the worst thing about the Sailor Moon dub is the butchering of the classic season finale. Now let me begin by saying that there was a bit of censorship of violence in Sailor Moon also. Mostly not showing bodies hitting the ground or wall or wherever they hit. However, they did show the deaths of the bad guys because they're the bad guys. However, the last 2 episodes of Classic were merged into one in the dub. What did they cut out? A whole lot. For starters, they cut off the opening scene where Usagi makes dinner for her family, which is a sweet and funny scene. The biggest cuts involve the deaths of the Senshi. One by one, they are offed by the DD girls, as they're known in the original, Doom and Gloom girls in the dub, and it's so damn sad, you guys. What did the dub do? They didn't show their death scenes, and went on to say that they were captured by the Negaverse. This is problematic for quite a few reasons. By the end of the episode, they all die, but are reborn on Earth, but their memories as a Sailor team are erased completely as if nothing happened. They don't show us Sailor Moon interacting with their ghost selves as she's about to go against Queen Beryl, but most importantly, this sucks all the emotion and drama out of the original. When you've spent the past 44 episodes being with this character and her friends, and they die, it hits you right in the heart when they die. They have come so far from being complete strangers to the best of friends. And with Mamoru dying off too, they cut off the scene where Sailor Moon almost kisses him but decides not to, because her friends weren't able to do the same thing to their loved ones. In the final battle between Metallia and Moon, her friends come back, very likely they're ghosts, but in the dub they somehow escaped? Yeah, that makes no sense. Where were they, dub? Overall, the butchering of this finale was the worst the dub has done. In fact, they do this with a lot of scenes. Call it lost in translation, but the dub sucked out most of the drama and emotion and comedy that was the original series. Because, you know, boys and girls only want action. What about character development? What about dealing with feelings? Screw that! Let's give them half-assed PSAs at the end. So those are the differences between the English dub and the original. If you haven't seen the original in Japanese, get your hands on it. As I stated in the last video, Viz Media has the rights to Sailor Moon, and they upload 2 new episodes every Monday of the original in Japanese on Hulu. They will also dub it in English in case you're not the type to read subtitles, and they'll leave it all uncut. I'm especially excited to see how the stars will sound like, since it was never dubbed in English. Thank God it wasn't dubbed back in the day. Imagine all the cuts they would have to do. But thankfully, dubbing anime is usually done better nowadays. If you want to learn more about the cuts and changes made to the dub, I highly recommend the website SailorMoonUncensored.com. No, it's not a porn site. I swear it's not! Thank you for joining me for this episode. Next time, I will be looking into the 3 movies and how they fit into the Sailor Moon timeline / canon.
This is low, even for a slime like you.
You can't blame me, brat. They're the ones who trained you to be as annoying as you are.
Let's show this jerk what Luna and Artemis really taught us.
Excellent idea, Jupiter. Hasta la vista, pretty boy.